Thank you so much. My name is Ousman Touray and I am from the Gambia. So basically born and raised in the Gambia, and then finished my university education up to BSc level, and then moved to Rwanda where I'm currently doing my master's program, but I'm also the chair of Young Ancestors Foundation. Thank you. Pan-Africanism is basically a term coined to detail oneness, collectiveness, and the coming together of Africans to fight for political, economic, and social independence, and for Africa to determine its destiny by herself, and having Africans on board and in the center for the development of the continent, and also for the future in which we want to build for ourselves. It is as well historic and philosophical, so therefore it reminds us of the past and the richness in the African culture and history that we need in moving forward as a people and as a continent. However, there has been prominent individuals that champion the cause of promoting Pan-Africanism in the past, some of which are born and raised in the diaspora, but of African descent, the likes of Bid Dubois, the likes of Marcus Garvey, the likes of John Henry Clark, Chancellor Williams, and then coming down to the continent, we have prominent leaders like Nkrumah, we know the likes of Patrick Lumumba, and the list goes on. But these are prominent individuals that have really championed the cause of Pan-Africanism, and many more, of course. And at the later age as well, the likes of J.J. Rawlings we saw in Ghana, the likes of Thomas Sankara we saw in Burkina Faso, and the likes of Mohamed Gaddafi, and the list goes on. These are prominent individuals that we know in our time that have really stood and fought for Pan-Africanism. And the cause is still championed by prominent African scholars like Piolo Lumumba from Kenya. We know that he's one of those prominent individuals that are pushing for the Pan-African discourse. Of course, our queen and mother, Ambassador Dr. Arikana, and the list goes on. And this is basically what Pan-Africanism and what the advocates of Pan-Africanism really advance for. Well, it was built, and that is the foundation of it. A united people, a united continent, a people who reminds themselves of their roots, their history, their culture, and basically building a future in which no African is a stranger to another. That hatred doesn't happen, among ourselves, but we build a community. We are united as a people and promote unionism as a continent and as a people, and not as nationalists or as different individuals belonging to tribe, identifying themselves with funny country names that we call ourselves or identify ourselves today as a result of colonialism. Well, the idea has been here. It has been championed by many individuals. However, the recognition that it deserves, we have not been seeing it by African leaders, promoting it in a way that it trickles down as well to the masses, and people understanding that this is something that really belongs to us and belongs to Africa as a people. And this happened because Pan-Africanism came in as an alternative. It comes in as our only hope that there is an existing system which doesn't work for the continent, and we need to promote this concept, this philosophy, this way of life in order for us to move forward. So basically the existing structures doesn't give a space for individuals to get to know more about themselves, more about Pan-Africanism, and even label its champions as rebels, anti-systems, some of whom were caged, some of whom prison, some of whom assassinated. And this has really makes it very difficult. And people, in fact, fear have fear in them when it comes to Pan-Africanism. Some are not even comfortable talking about the truth about Africa. Some individuals don't want to advance for some of this discussion because in one way or the other, it's like they're having some, lost in their economy or lost, lives and whatever. So this makes it very difficult for individuals in Africa today to identify themselves as Pan-Africanists because they feel that they're losing opportunities. But that is not what we have to stand for as a people. You see, when we stand together, that means power, that means unity, and that means we can defeat any force around the world. So what we really need to do today is to promote this discourse in a way that young people, myself, yourself, can have this discussion among ourselves and understand that this is not anything foreign. This is something that comes from us. It's within us, and by doing so, we can promote a continental development that holds to our reality and also shape a pattern for leadership, economy-wise and socially, a pattern that works for Africa. Well, it's a plus because many individuals have been advocating for such, that we really need to promote a language, a unifying language, a language that Africans can speak, at least, continental wide, and understand that this is something that is coming from us and it belongs to us as well. And what we have realized is, taking any other language in Africa as a universal language that we can speak has been a big challenge as a result of the tribes associated to it and the people's willingness in speaking some of this. But Swahili is one of those that just stands out, that it doesn't matter what tribe you belong to. It's a language that we can learn, we can build upon, just like we built upon French, English, Arabic, and Portuguese and other languages. So it is a plus, and I want to also charge or to at least tell African leaders that this has been adopted at the AU level, but let us do more at our national level. Let us do more to promote it at the grassroots level. Let us make sure that we introduce Swahili in schools, teach our young people on how they can advance and speak a language that is deeply rooted in them, and they can more understand their culture by speaking a language that they belong to. Well, thank you so much. So basically, when we talk about education, it's basically learning about things that are associated to you, your environment, and how you can add values to where you live. The objective, the sole aim of education is to liberate yourself, to liberate a community. And what we have realized is, for the past years, for decades after independence, the education system in Africa have really not been delivering the kind of quality that we really want, because most of which is colonial education that many African countries never took their time to change curriculums, to redefine the trajectory in which education is looked at. So what we really have to do now is to remind ourselves as young people that, is this the continuity that we want? Are there any good thing that we can appreciate in Africa? Are there reforms that we can undertake in the education system in Africa? And are there challenges that are also within the education system? And what can we do about it? On my case, it's very true that, yes, I've received invitations and scholarship to go to different countries around the world for my studies, and I opt to stay in an African country that is equally doing well. It can be a model for many other African nations to know that we cannot just be trapped in the past, but we have to move on. And moving on means having to redefine exactly what our trajectory is and put knowledge at the center stage. So redefining what we want, coming together is one thing, but let us work together on reforms, especially in the education system. How can we make sure that schools are not just places where we go interact and call them learning centers, but how can we transform our school, our educational institutions, universities into solution centers where the public, the private sector can look at whenever they need direction, promote scholarly works that are African and we can change the narratives in the long run about what this continent is. Well, it is necessary, and Africans have to stand in promoting that, to understand that, you see, media is a very, very important and a powerful tool in shaping the thinking and shaping the minds of a people. So we must make sure that we are in control of our own narratives and we are in control of information across Africa. It really doesn't tell well if people can come from anywhere around the world, write any kind of story about Africa, negative to that degree, and at the same time, use that to brainwash, to show to many other Africans, especially in the diaspora, disconnecting them with the continent, telling them that that place you call home is not really a home, that there are conflicts, people are not able to survive, that there are bad image about the continent. So this makes it very difficult for our brothers and sisters to reconnect or even think about going home to invest or think about going home to work, to put their skills, their knowledge into actions that will be meaningful to their communities. So promoting an African narrative through an African media, working together, build network among themselves, will be a plus for not only Ethiopia, but a plus to the whole of Africa and to the whole of Africans wherever they are. And not just the call of Abiy Ahmed. A similar call was made by Uhuru Kenyatta about a few months ago in a speech that, we really have to do something about the media, because otherwise you will see a journalist sitting down in Nairobi and it makes sense. African Union is not just the structures, and we must look beyond that. And it's not about the headquarters in Addis Ababa, it's about the principles in which it was founded. It is about the belief in the people who actually came together to form what was the OAU to now the African Union. What was their belief? What was their aspiration? What was the motivation behind this? It was about building a continental united organization that will bring all Africans and African interests in a table and promote the future of the continental development and solving conflicts. And among that, economic independence was one of the aspirations. And up till now, up till tomorrow, we have France licking African countries economic-wise. And yet I know that no much have been done by the African Union to speak about this. And that's why I said we must think about the African Union beyond the buildings, beyond the complex, beyond the headquarters. What is the principle? Who are behind the African Union? Who sponsors the African Union? Who has the budget for the African Union? Who does the African representative in the African Union really represent? Whose agenda are they really promoting? So we must look at all these things, and then we can, further restructure the African Union in a way that it will benefit, and it will call out some of these things that are not in the interest of Africa and in the interest of African economies. Many individuals from those very countries have really came out and called for solutions towards this. Why is France still taking money from African countries? What is the cause? Why should we still pay? Why has France refused to come out and apologize to the Africans on the human rights violations, on the control, on the pain meted on African countries from colonialism to post-colonial era? These are things that the African Union really need to put at the center of their discourse, and we hope that young people across the continent will make the call, will come out in their numbers and protest for some of these things to be really amended, and the African Union to look into it. In most of these countries that are going through military coup d'etat of recent, especially in West Africa, has been a concern for many of us. But this is what really happened. And we have to go back to the roots. You see, constitutionally, if people cannot change their leaders, constitutionally, very soft, by just going to vote in an elections, but when leaders can manipulate constitution, they can manipulate election results, the only last hope is the military. And this is what many African countries have been experiencing, especially in the West African side of it, or in the West African region. And what we really need to look into is, the cause of some of these things. There are many young Africans that are emerging right now and are making serious demands in their countries. Why is the status quo the way it is? Why is employment, a nightmare? Why is that, the system is not just working? Why is the system under the control of very few? Why is it that we're giving foreigners more opportunities and give them almost everything they need in our own regions without us having a benefit, without us transforming our economies into something that are beneficial to the people who live within them? Why is corruption so rampant? Why are people in power very difficult to hold accountable? So these and many other factors have resulted to most of these things. Why the big man syndrome having to continue? That one person decides on behalf of every other individual. So these are serious concerns that we must look and reflect in to make sure that we can push for, the continental development that we all desire as a people. You see, it all goes back to foreign policies. One thing is very core. In foreign policy, the first thing is your country's interest. And that's what China is doing. They're able to come outsource labor. People who cannot work in China because they don't have all the jobs for them, they send them out of China to go and work. Now, what is the African governments, what is the African leaders doing in terms of creating opportunities for their own people? That is where the problem is. They come with, very soft ways, coming up with loans, with grants, give you a whole project, and then hire a Chinese company to build it. So who will the Chinese companies employ? It's automatically Chinese. And that is the frustration, because the young people in the continent, the young architects, engineers, and etc., are left behind in our own projects that they should be working upon, in terms of capacity building, in terms of infrastructure, and etc. So we have to find a way that we put African interests first. We put our people first in whatever that we're doing. And that means the leaders have to rethink about the people that they're leading. Please, we appoint people, we elect people based on promises. And during elections, those are the things that you hear. Solving jobs, creating opportunities for young people, registering development across the continent. But then what are we doing to make that a possibility? So those infrastructure, those capacity must be built across the continent to make sure that young people don't have to run away. They don't have to perish in the Mediterranean Sea. They have to live a dignified life. Yes. Well, it's basically to say, keep doing what you're doing and let's advance the discourse. It takes young Africans to be on the center stage and talk about these pertaining problems in the continent. One thing that I've also been saying is, we know that there are problems in Africa. We know that there are challenges in Africa, but we equally don't solve them by running away. We are the solutions. Let us find ways to put our energy, our resources, our knowledge, our wisdom together in coming up with a continental agenda that young people can see themselves, and it reflects the African reality and the African interest. So thank you so much, and it's been great to be in Addis Ababa. I look forward to coming over and over. Thank you.